for the Georgia defense. Georgia on the mountaintop. Demons be gone, and the drought is over. National champions at long last.
Well, I didn't get a full taste, but I can tell you this. There's going to be some property torn up in Indianapolis tonight, baby!
That was then when Georgia won the Natty, and this is now G-Day, the spring game that resets things for another run to the top. Look at these appreciative fans here outside Sanford Stadium. They're still celebrating the national championship that they endured 41 years of heartbreak for, and now knowing so much next-level talent is ready to blossom, and we're going to watch it perk up right here on G-Day as we say, good afternoon, Joe Tessitore, as always with my partner, Greg McElroy. Greg, it is one thing to get over the hump that Georgia was able to do, win the national championship. It's another thing to maintain excellence. How equipped is this Georgia program to do that now?
Extremely. I mean, it takes talent and leadership to get to the top of the mountain. It takes culture to stay at the top of the mountain. Talk to Kirby Smart. Everyone on this staff feels that they lost some very important leaders off of last year's team, but they've been pleasantly surprised with the guys that have emerged as those that will now hold the rest of the team accountable.
Let's talk about Stetson Bennett. Of course, he was the quarterback that was receiving criticism and doubt, the former walk-on. All he did was go on to win a national championship and be offensive MVP. This spring, they're praising him for his maturity and development.
He's the most underappreciated player in college football, and understandable. Look, there are actual fans donning red and black that still don't believe he's the best man for the job. It's ludicrous to me. The guy finished third in college football last year in total QBR. The guys that were in front of him were both in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Bryce Young actually won it. He finished second, just one spot ahead of Stetson Bennett. He's smart, he's athletic, and he understands what the offense needs from him to be successful. He's without question the leader of this offense and will likely have a big 2022 season.
Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff are the big, massive recruits underneath him, the quarterbacks who wowed in recent years in the high school ranks. We're going to see them with some number one action today. What are you looking for?
I just want to see consistency in their decision making. You don't become a top overall recruit like all three of these guys were without having unbelievable skill set. Great arm, very accurate, mobile enough to be able to create with their legs. But do they make the right decision? Do they distribute the football to the correct place? And can they be consistent when operating this offense in some of the decisions they have to make with the run game as well?
The future starts now for the Dogs. We're going to visit live with Kirby Smart. When we come back, it is G-Day, folks, here in Athens. Rain has gone away here in Athens as we are getting set for G-Day's spring game. And head coach Kirby Smart with Katie George.
Thousands of fans.
About the next group, little anxiety. They get to play for the first time. I saw it in some of the mid-years during warm-ups, so it's good to get some of that out of the way.
Is there a certain position group or groups you're keen to see perform today?
I think all of them. We got some young players that got to play. You can tell that by the draft that's coming up and a lot of these guys on the sideline. Two really good scrimmages, Smart with the ball, very efficient. I would expect him to be the same way today.
You won it all just a couple months ago.
Got to move on from that. There's a chance to check out and get a ring, but right now we're checking in to move forward.
Thanks for the.
Thank you. Go Dogs.
Checking in and moving forward. So much about spring is about the mental approach of finding your identity, of getting back to the starting block. And with as much turnover as they've had to this roster, I think it guards against complacency. You got a lot of players out there that are hungry to get after it. You see the format we're using, Greg, as we will have 4 15-minute quarters, running clock until we get to the last 4 minutes of each half. But that was a conversation we had with Kirby yesterday. about, and he mentions the NFL draft. You're going to see loads of dogs being called at the NFL draft. But having that hunger, because a lot of these players weren't the ones out there beating Bama.
But you also have to make sure those young players understand that winning doesn't come just because you put on the Georgia uniform. You have to do what it takes in the days leading up to the game in order to be successful on Saturday. So it's a balance between understanding those guys are hungry, but also they must understand that winning is earned by your preparation.
Kenny McIntosh on the return to open up this game. Kirby, year number 7. Became the 5th SEC coach to win a national championship at his alma mater. Stetson Bennett, coming off the offensive MVP performance in the national championship game. Of course, had the big fourth quarter touchdown passes, that strike to A.D. Mitchell and then Brock Bowers. And now here he is, 24 years old, 6th season of college football for Stetson Bennett. And he will complete his first pass of the afternoon. And it goes to A.D. Mitchell, a fine-looking 6'4" sophomore. So, Greg, so much of the conversation about Stetson Bennett has focused in on what's the next step for him. You win a national championship, and of course, there's still room for improvement. What do you believe the next step is?
Well, I think just taking complete control from a leadership standpoint. I mean, we know physically what he is. He's accurate with the football. He's creative with his legs. But now the next step is, because he is the unquestioned starter, he now has to hold every other person accountable, and he has to be the alpha dog from a personality standpoint on the offensive side of the football. So I think that's the next step. Physically, can he get much better? I don't know. We'll find out. But I know mentally and taking control, that's the big part for him that hasn't happened before, because he's never come into the season as the unquestioned guy.
Ingram Dawkins with the tackle moments ago, so it's a 3rd down and 4 for Bennett. Stetson with time, he lofts it, and downfield is McIntosh out of the backfield. He is so fast and dangerous in the open field. And you remember a year ago, James Cook played a role for them that was critical as a receiving back. That is what McIntosh could do for this team this year.
Yeah, and a great job, too, by Stetson Bennett throwing it up and over the top. You see a running back isolated on the linebacker in coverage on a deep ball, 3rd and medium, very accurate dropping in the bucket. You referenced those running backs last year. Yeah, they lose some capable pieces in Zamir White and James Cook, but Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton are certainly extremely talented. There shouldn't be much drop-off at that position.
33 yards on that catch from McIntosh. And now he bounces it off right tackle before he is ridden out by Dan Jackson, the safety. You switch jersey numbers. You Dogs fans saying, hold on, I thought Dan Jackson was 47. Dan Jackson's wearing 17 come this season.
A lot of notable pieces missing on that defense, but we'll talk about that throughout the course of the game. A lot of the attention today, though, will go to the offense. Will this group in 2022 have to shoulder a little bit more of the load? It's highly unlikely that their defense will allow just 10 points a game. So there might be more games where you have to get into the upper 30s, low 40s to win. Is this offense capable? That's all I'll be paying attention to today.
Here's Kendall Milton, start and stop as he jump cuts to the outside, and he will have the first down. So a heavy dose of McIntosh and Milton on this opening drive with Stetson Bennett at quarterback here. We asked Kirby, in terms of Stetson Bennett, what specifically does he look for? He says, just no more of the forcing the ball and making poor decisions. Just ball security, making sure we're in the proper play. Do the simple things really well and don't cost your team. Of course, he was sensational in the postseason at the end of last year. Milton again.
Kendall Milton on the carry.
You referenced, don't force the ball. I mean, Stetson's 24 years old. He understands now at this point. I mean, he's a grown man. In some cases, the guys that will be in the huddle with him are 6 years younger than him. 7 years in some rare cases, some of the early enrollees that are here that we'll document throughout the game. But he has to make a winning play every single time. And the winning play doesn't necessarily mean a completion or a big run or a touchdown. A winning play might be an incompletion or even taking a sack. being smart with the football and never putting your team at a difficult spot.
2nd and 9. To the end zone he goes. Good effort being made there, but it is incomplete as he was trying to connect with Brett Seether, the backup tight end. By the way, Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington not in action today, 2 top tight ends. That was a very good effort by Seether, but he couldn't control it through the process of the catch before he ends up in the famed hedges.
Really good throw, too. Nice anticipation. Drop it right in the bucket. One that I would imagine Brock Bowers would probably be able to reel in when it gets around to the fall.
The All-America is a true freshman a year ago, Brock Bowers. 3rd down and 9 to the end zone and a touchdown as Stetson Bennett gets off to a good start as he connects with Eric Gilbert, who was the star tight end his freshman year at LSU, transferred, didn't see time last year as he stepped away from football, but has answered the bell, as Kirby Smart has said, and he is a dangerous weapon as a big target.
And that is a really nice throw from Stetson Bennett. Right on time. You understand your tight ends are the answer here in the red zone. He throws it right on his face mask in between 2 defenders. And the big-time promising recruit that started his career at LSU and has found a home here in Athens is on the board early.
Very interesting to think about what Gilbert could contribute with all the talent they already have at tight end. He's gone through some tough times, fought through them, back on his feet, and back in the end zone is Eric Gilbert from Stetson Bennett. Seven 0 touchdown catch by Eric Gilbert. And by the way, you know his name is spelled A-R-I-K, and you'll hear some pronunciation of Arik through the years. We asked yesterday, how does Mom say it? He said, Mom wants Eric, then it's Eric. Eric Gilbert with the touchdown. It has been an up and down road for one of the biggest recruits in football in recent years, and then was an all-SEC freshman at LSU in 2020. A rockier path recently here at Georgia. It's great to see him back, though.
Yeah, it is. And we're talking about a guy that was the Gatorade National Player of the Year in 2019, the first tight end ever to win the awards at the awards inception. So an unbelievable skill set is what Eric Gilbert's had. And he's had some challenges, personal challenges, has made a few bad decisions, but now trying to get back on track. Has lost a ton of weight since getting back into the program, working his way back into playing shape. Probably still a few months away from being at his best, but certainly if he continues on this path, should be a huge factor in a tight end featured offense here throughout the course of the fall.
Carson Beck now at quarterback. Beck, play action, wants to take a shot deep. And what a way to start things to Arian Smith. Carson Beck, 3rd year in the program. Kirby has discussed how much growth he has shown and a big strike to start his G-Day.
Yeah, I love the movement in the pocket, too. I mean, sometimes when a young quarterback feels that presence in the pressure, they escape, they leave, they move, they turn into an athlete. That's not what Carson Beck did right there. He composure, slid to his left, delivered a strike downfield, now has him knocking on the door.
Dejon Edwards in the backfield. He will get the carry. Kept his balance and in. So Carson Beck with a 60-yard strike downfield to Arian Smith. One handoff to Dejon Edwards, who has a promising future, and just like that, it's a touchdown.
Here's that movement we're talking about. You see the presence up the middle, but the composure shown by Beck, sliding to his left, keeping his eyes downfield and dropping it in the bucket on the perfect landmark, following it closely throughout the air. Just really nicely done there by the youngster who's trying to make a run at Stetson Bennett's gig.
Jack Podlosny, he is back for another year as the starting kicker. He adds the extra point, and Arian Smith, the target that Beck was able to connect with, he has legit track speed. He was runner-up in the NCAA on the 4x100. 60-yard pass for Carson Beck on first down off the play action. You know, last year, obviously, limited action, mop-up duty. Last year's spring game, he went for 236 yards and 2 touchdowns, but this was a 4-star prospect, according to ESPN.com. Top 15 pocket passer when he was coming out of high school, enrolled early at Georgia, but obviously you got to wait your turn. You got to get your opportunity, and here's Stetson Bennett in front of him in year number 6 of college football, but a very bright future for Carson Beck.
And a massive spring for all the guys that are right now jockeying behind Stetson Bennett. Because Stetson Bennett, I'd be shocked if he's not the starter come this fall. I think something would have to go horribly wrong, or one of these guys makes a leap that no one's ever made before. It's possible, but highly unlikely. But who will take the first snaps when things get underway 1 year from now? When they kick off in the spring in 2023, who gets the first snaps? And a lot of the practice time this spring could go a long way to determining what the pecking order might be when they kick things off next year.
Well, guys, when we visited with Cedric Van Pran starting center, different quarterbacks, he said Brock, quiet, most observant. He said Carson, obviously the most dynamic, great arm talent. And then he said Stetson, he has the maturity, right? He has the leadership, the experience. Everybody looks to him in certain moments because he's proven himself. But we just saw that deep arm talent on full display there. So a lot moving forward into the summer and then fall camp.
You mentioned all 3 quarterbacks in that conversation we had with Cedric Van Pran. We saw Bennett come down with the opening drive for a touchdown. We saw Beck with the quick strike, and now here is Brock Vandagriff, redshirt freshman from Bogart, Georgia. Kenny McIntosh in the backfield with him, and quickly out of the backfield is McIntosh. McIntosh, who had the 33-yard catch on that opening drive. So Vandagriff, Greg, he enrolled early a year ago, did get action in the G-Day game last spring, was 6 of 9 for 47 yards. He was the #1 prospect in the state, the #5 prospect overall nationally last year. McIntosh eaten up right at the line of scrimmage as David Daniel Sisavon was able to close that hole.
When you watch Vandagriff, you notice the revolutions off of his hand. I mean, the ball really spins, pretty good placement. Him and Beck, you could switch jerseys and you subtract the hair, the ball comes off their hand very similarly. They have a similar build too. So you look at both those guys, somewhat interchangeable. It'd be fascinating to see just how they kind of mature and develop here over the course of the summer, and who ends up as the backup quarterback for Stetson this fall.
Mishandled that shotgun snap. It bounces back into his arms, but unable to connect there with Marcus Rosemy-Jack-Saint. So it'll be 4th down.
Snap was good. It looks like here, Vandagriff just taking his eyes off of it. You see that ball get into his chest, and his eyes were just slightly to the right, trying to identify where he was going with the football. So just getting a little ahead of himself there. Things probably moving a little quick for him here in the second G-Day.
Brett Thorson is the true freshman Aussie punter who takes over as Jake Camarda has moved on. So a new punter for the Dogs, and it is a sky punt that Kearis Jackson will field at the 18-yard line. A reminder, our NBA playoff Game 1 quadruple header continues, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. It is the 5th seed, the Raptors, and the 4th seed, the Sixers. And over on ABC, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, the Nuggets and the Warriors. And both games are also streaming live on the ESPN app. Well, play number 1 today for Carson Beck. Went for 60 yards off play action to the speedy Aaron Smith. What do you do for an encore? Beck composed in the pocket, sidearms it out of the backfield to Clark. And Clark is able to sprint ahead to the 39-yard line and move the chains as he goes for 20 yards there.
And this was nice, too. I mean, you look at Beck. It's actually pretty well covered. He sees the linebacker coming out underneath it and throws the intended wide receiver away from the underneath presence. That's good awareness and good field vision by the quarterback. Also a nice job changing his arm angle, looking like Stafford, dropping it below the hip, throwing a little sidearm action.
Pulls it from Clark, and the in cut gets it complete again to Smith. That looks very solid, very comfortable managing things.
Really good. And you can see, too, every time the offense makes a great play, you have to be reminded he's going against a second-team defense. And that's one thing that Kirby Smart's been worried about. He knows his frontline starters will be great, but will they have the same type of depth in the second and third string that they had throughout the course of last year? And right now, it's looking like this defense is a step slow.
First down run by Clark. Doesn't manage to get much against that defensive line, and has so many new faces on it. Obviously, Jordan Davis, and Trayvon Walker, Devontae Wyatt, that all-time great defense we saw a year ago, but such great recruiting in recent years. They backfill it with many 4- and 5-stars who are ready to step up. Second and 9. And tried to set up the screen, looking for Dom Blaylock, who has overcome 2 major knee injuries to the same knee. They're happy to have him back.
And you see the defensive line. I mean, the departed players. I mean, almost every NFL team would love to have a starting 4 that included those 4 names. You see what's coming back, though. Jalen Carter, I'd be willing to guarantee he'll get some all-SEC consideration this upcoming year, but the guy I'm most excited about might be Zion Logue. Like, this is a guy that could really break through. Tramel Wathauer, also another guy that they're very excited about. So that defensive line, maybe not as deep as they were last year, but could very easily fill those pieces in front of them.
Third down and 9. Beck going to take a shot downfield. There was some contact. No flag on the play as he was looking for Blaylock.
But Kirby basically admitted it. Said, look, man, we're not going to be as dynamic up front as we were last year. How could you be? It'd be almost, you have a generationally good defensive line. To replace those guys without any drop-off is asking far too much. Now, how do you overcompensate for those losses up front? 1 is your offense has to potentially score more points. 2, your second-level defenders better be lights out, but those guys are young as well. And 3, in the secondary, you better be locked down. Well, the secondary I feel great about. First and second level, though, still a couple question marks at this point of the offseason.
Noah Jones, back rotation as McConkey fields it in some traffic near the 16-yard line. You know, you mentioned Jalen Carter right away, and I know what went out the front door with Davis and Walker and Wyatt, but there were some moments last year. There were some plays last year where if you said, well, who's the most disruptive guy? Who's the scariest guy? Who's the guy with the most upside? Big number 88 would come off the tongue of many.
And I can remember talking to players like, all right, who's the best guy you saw this year? They're like, 88 Georgia. I was like, hang on a second. He's not even starting.
Right.
Who's that?
He's the backup.
Who's that guy? Yeah, and then you watch the tape, and it's like, goodness gracious, this guy, every time he's in the game, could take over the game. So it's coming. It's just a matter of time for that young man. And a year from now, we'll be talking about him on Kuiper and McShay's big board.
Bennett on first down. That is batted right at the line of scrimmage. As Javon Bullard got up in the face of Stetson Bennett. Very athletic defensive back is Bullard from Midgeville, Georgia.
Talk a little bit about Carter and Logue, Azir Stackhouse. I mean, they have good quality pieces, but one thing that I'm really excited about are those edge defenders. I mean, yes, maybe the middle of the defense, not what it was a year ago as far as depth, but Nolan Smith's back, Robert Beal's back. Those edge defenders, there shouldn't be any drop-off. If anything, there should be advancement from where they were a year ago.
Bennett downfield looking for McConkey. And that was coming down like the other end of a rainbow arc, but Keely Ringo had coverage on Ladd McConkey. Keely Ringo, who put the finishing touches on the college football playoff national title game, had the pick-6 interception return for a touchdown off of Bryce Young and Bama.
And this ball thrown just a little bit too much to the outside as Keely Ringo times it well. Maybe a touch early, but a great job by the outstanding corner. The big question mark in the secondary is who's going to line up opposite Keely Ringo, because we know he has one side locked down with his impressive play from last year.
And a great visit with Keely Ringo yesterday. Here's third down and 10. Bennett, good strike, and that was nearly picked off as it goes incomplete there. And it was Tresman Marshall who defended that. Katie, we visited with Keely Ringo yesterday. And we said, how many times have you watched the pick six? How many times have you gone back and pressed play and watched what you did against Bama? He lit up. Big smile out of him, right, Katie?
Huge smile. He said that sometimes he's just scrolling through Twitter and Instagram and it just randomly pops up, like the SEC network might repost it, so he can't get away from seeing it. And then when he goes around Athens, he said if people recognize him without his helmet on, he says he gets stopped all the time, and he loves talking to fans about it, something that we will remember, obviously, for the next 100 years in college football.
And it's so funny because every player has a play or two that just stands the test of time. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. This one in particular, obviously good. As you could see, Kelee Ringo, I asked him yesterday too, he's like, man, hey dude, once you intercepted that, as you see Kirby, he's saying, get down. No, I'm not going down, not with the ball in my hands in the national championship game. But the whole sideline asking him to declare himself down so they can kneel on it and strike up the fight song for a national championship. But he'll be going around and seeing Bulldog clubs all throughout the city in Georgia, at Athens and Atlanta, you name it. He'll go speak for the rest of his life, and they'll talk to him and say, hey, man, I remember that play in the national championship, just one that will live on forever.
By the way, what a humble and modest kid. I visited with him yesterday. He's just and everything he's got going for himself. He's a big guy, 6'2", 205. Right. He's going to be a dream.
Prototypical corner, exactly what
NFL
you want.
Scouts, right?
Right. He can play zone or man. Very physical in the run game as well. Not afraid to contact, which is exactly what you want. But he's a perfect example. I'm talking to Kirby Smart yesterday. It's like, man, no wonder you're excited about the culture of your team. You got good dudes on your roster. I mean, you have good kids that want to be great and that want to leave Athens better than they found it. Kelee Ringo is a great example of that.
Kirby roaming the sidelines here. Final seconds, final half minute coming down in this first quarter of the annual G-Day spring game. You saw his first team offense with Stetson Bennett come right down the field, cap a touchdown drive. You saw second team offense go out there and make a quick strike with Carson Beck and Dejon Edwards. Now Beck getting extended time here with Savon Clark in the backfield. Play action as he boots out of it and then drags it across to get the completion to Oscar Delp. Oscar Delp, one of the fine-looking early enrollee true freshmen, as if they don't have enough depth of big athletes playing tight end. Here's 6'5", 225-pound Oscar Delp as we come to the end of quarter number one in the annual G-Day spring game, 7-7 game here in Athens. When we return, the changes on the coaching staff and how Greg thinks that impacts things here with Georgia. So don't go anywhere. Well, the news when it comes to the coaching staff is on the defensive side, and that is the fact that defensive coordinator Dan Lanning left to become the Oregon head coach. He was the DC here with the Dogs for 3 years, but you saw Will Muschamp, of course, a very familiar face, both to Georgia fans for having played here, and of course SEC fans for being the head coach at Florida and South Carolina. He's now the co-DC with the young emerging star you see there talking to his defense, Glenn Schumann, who you have familiarity with because of his Alabama roots.
Yeah, and I've known Glenn Schumann now for 15 years, and I'm just so proud of him. He has earned this opportunity. He's self-made and has done such a great job of starting from the bottom, going all the way to the top. If you document his trajectory, he started 2008 at Alabama. I was a redshirt sophomore. He was an undergraduate analyst. Undergraduate analyst is the bottom of the totem pole. There is nowhere lower that you can be on the coaching staff. And he has worked his way up. Eventually, after 3 years, got the graduate assistant gig, then went to the player development side. He was in the weight room, working with walk-ons on the weight room back in 2008. This guy's self-made and has seen it from every possible level, so he knows exactly what you need to do. He's been with Kirby Smart for 15 years, and he's Kirby's right-hand man. Just so happy for his opportunity, and he's going to do an amazing job here in Athens.
2nd and 6 as Beck gets it complete to Delp, and Delp able to add more to it. This is exactly what we talked about when we say the athleticism that they have at tight end. This was the number 2 rated tight end in the country, early enrolls, and is flashing this spring.
Yeah, and you talked to the offensive coordinator, Tim Monk, and he said, look, we might have, if we wanted to, we could probably run 14 personnel, which is 1 running back, 4 tight ends. put it this way, nobody does that. Except for maybe Georgia this fall, which would be a matchup nightmare for defensive coordinators.
Beck tried to go to the outside to Morissette. Denylon Morissette, another good-looking true freshman, but it's incomplete. And just to get back to the conversation about the new look on the defensive coordinator side with Will Muschamp and Glenn Schumann, you're taking over a defense that allowed just over 10 points per game last season. There's no team in college football that's done that in the last 11 years.
Sure.
So this is one of those what do you do for an encore situations.
Well, there's only one way to go, unfortunately.
That's right.
But I don't think they're going to go very far. I mean, from 10, maybe 12 points a game? Goodness gracious. Heaven forbid.
2nd and 10. Carson Beck. The backfield is Edwards. Edwards had the touchdown in the first quarter. Katie.
Hey, Tess. Okay, I've got Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, and Devontae Wyatt here on the sidelines. They just received their national championship rings. Devontae, can you show it? All right. How does it look? What do you think of it now that it's on your hand?
It's beautiful. You know, we designed it ourselves, the seniors, so we knew what we was getting into, but it's even beautiful in person. It looks a lot different from the mock-ups, and, you know, we love it. This is our baby right here. We treasure this.
Do you feel like Thanos with it on?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, you put that...
Trayvon, how good is Jalen Carter?
Oh, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's one of the ones you need to be on the lookout for. Great player, great young man.
Who else in that room do you think is going to really step up and fill the absence of what I'm standing next to right now?
I say all them boys as long as they wait until their time come, but it's a lot of great young men in that one room coming out.
Vontae, how does it feel being back here in Sanford Stadium?
Oh, it's amazing, man. I ain't been here in a minute. First time been here since like some months, and just being here, I just feel the energy. I feel like getting back on the field. Just missing, like just watching them out here just make me want to go out there right now and have fun with them. But definitely it's amazing to be back.
What's the last few months been like for you guys, going through the combine, going through the draft process? How's it gone for you, Trayvon?
I have to say it's been a great experience, very tiring. A lot's been put into it that a lot of people don't see, but it's something that you'll always remember, and you'll never be able to get that moment back, so just take it all in.
Jordan, how did the combine experience go for you? What's the draft process been like leading up?
It's wonderful. You know, this thing you dream about as a kid, you want to do. So anything that we do, it's like a dream come true to me. That's how I look at it. That's my outlook. But you just keep working, you continue to work, and just enjoy life. You got to be where your feet are. So we're enjoying the moment today. I'm glad to be back with our brothers and be back at Sanford Stadium.
Are you slimmer? Does he look slimmer to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Is it the all black, or have you cut weight a little bit?
To make me blush, man. Y'all so flattering, but you know, we just keep working. It's always just work. We work every day, and we have fun. We enjoy each other, so that's all I can really ask for.
Well, I know these fans are happy to see you guys on the sidelines. It's great to visit with you all. Best of luck moving forward in the next couple of weeks in April, okay?
Thank you.
Katie, do me a favor, Katie. Don't let one of the guys leave right away, because I want to see that championship ring again.
You want to see
Katie,
it one more time?
And here's
okay.
what I want to do. I want a ring comparison, because we want to congratulate you since last we saw you on your nuptials with Paulo. Look at that ring. And we celebrate Katie's ring. Look at the size of that thing.
That's awesome.
I thought
Huge.
Katie had a big ring.
I can't believe how big the rings are getting. Between what I saw from Coach Drew at Baylor, who won the national championship last year, and he was doing a lot of stuff throughout March Madness. He was wearing that ring. I couldn't look away from it. Like he was on TNT or TBS, wherever it was, flashing that ring around. I honestly I thought it was a joke. Those are way prettier than the Baylor rings. That's for sure.
What
but
are you
my
going
goodness,
on,
they're
13
impressive.
years since your national championship?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Long
think
time.
They've gone up about maybe half a pound.
Ours
in
was unreasonably big, and these are making ours look embarrassing. Like if I'm out hanging out with Jordan and Devontae and those guys, like I don't even know if I could wear mine. I'd feel insignificant. Like it's so much bigger nowadays. But they earned it, man. That was such a fun group to watch, and to be there in Indianapolis and to feel the energy of the fan base. It was really a special moment for this group.
Brock Vandegrift back at quarterback. We've seen Bennett. We've seen Beck. We just saw Podlesny cap that last drive with a 24-yard field goal. And now Vandegrift, as he's trying to get going. A.D. Mitchell was the intended target there.
And for those that are jumping to conclusions already, Vandegrift going against the one defense. So keep that in mind. So far, Carson Beck's gotten off to a really nice start, has been accurate through the beautiful pass on the first offensive play of the game for the red team. But Vandegrift going against a little bit more experienced group that has the full arsenal of their weapons at their disposal. So tough sledding against this group. So if Vandegrift's off to a slow start, he'll have chances in the second half to work against the twos where the stats might be a little bit more easy to come by.
Kenny McIntosh to carry that time. Goes for 7 yards. You have Beck 142 yards already on 7 completions. Vandegrift just the 1 completion. They're down at 4. Just saw a couple games of mop-up duty a year ago. See what he does on 3rd and 4. As he is able to get it to Mitchell, and Mitchell grabs the sideline and tiptoes his way past midfield to the 43-yard line. A.D. Mitchell, who had the go-ahead score in the national title game, had that 40-yard catch, moves the chains here for Brock Vandegrift.
And a good move in the pocket, just a little bit behind A.D. Mitchell, but a good job by the outstanding wide receiver, flipping his hips, making a difficult catch, and continuing his forward momentum. He made that look so easy. Y'all don't realize how hard that is. Any one of us goes out there, tries to catch a ball thrown in our rear hip as you're running full speed the other direction. 99 times out of 100, you're going to face plant. He made it look easy and continued on with the forward momentum.
Milton is gobbled up, and that was Jalen Carter, who we have been raving about. Jalen Carter, the big 6'3", 310-pounder, who is being tabbed as the next great one, who looks the part of a future top 10 pick.
What I love is that he's playing, talked to a lot of people, a lot of guys that have really high expectations for this upcoming season. Some guys aren't even participating in the spring to think they've shown enough. Jalen Carter is constantly trying to improve. And I love that he's out there competing because there's a lot of room for growth. When your ceiling's that high, you can continue to get better and become an unstoppable force if you continue to work as they have.
On the screen there, flag comes in. You know, versatile athlete too. But remember we saw him line up in the offensive backfield last year against Arkansas. He's just clearing guys out in that I formation playing fullback. So versatile that when he played high school football, he was also the punter. This guy was the punter at 6'3", 310 pounds. Katie.
Gotten a ton of reps this spring, guys, because the other younger, less experienced guys around him needed more opportunities, Kirby said. So he's getting his fair share today. So the question Kirby has is, does he have the stamina to play first, second, and third down in a row consistently? Can he play in a 5, 6, 7 play drive? That's the question for him this fall. He's getting the repetition today to kind of springboard for a couple months from now.
Delayed handoff. McIntosh, little wiggle, little balance.
And that I think is huge too. If you're a defensive lineman, showcasing your versatility. If you can play on first and second down, a lot of guys can play on first, second down, right? But can you get after the quarterback and rush the passer on third after playing first and second down? The other thing too for Jalen Carter, he's such a dominant force. You want to feature him in the pass rush, meaning I want to line him up over the opposing offense's worst pass blocker. So I'm going to move him inside. Maybe the worst pass blocker is the right tackle. I want to move him outside. I need to have positional flexibility with him, and him leaning up and staying in great shape will allow for that in the fall.
2nd and 8. Vandegrift. That is incomplete as he couldn't connect with Eric Gilbert. Gilbert had the touchdown reception in the first quarter earlier. Katie, you were mentioning the weight loss with Eric Gilbert.
Yeah, you know, when he rejoined the team in January, he was over 300 pounds. So that's kind of why they shifted from the wide receiver idea to the tight end, just purely based on his size. But he's worked so hard with Washington and Bowers both out. He's really committed himself, gotten invaluable reps this spring. Kirby said, I didn't have high expectations for him, just everything that he's gone through. But he's been a pleasant surprise. And now, guys, he's down to 265, and he's running extremely well for that size.
Jamon Dumas-Johnson driving back McIntosh.
And more on Dumas-Johnson in a minute, but Eric Gilbert really needs to be about 240. I mean, he's so athletic. He's got great length, but if he can shed another 15, 20, 25 pounds, we're talking about a game changer. You have him and Brock Bowers on opposite sides. What does the defense do? What do you cover them with? These guys can run like wide receivers, and yet they can block you at the end of the line of scrimmage. So if he can shed a little bit more weight over the summer, which should be easy to do, it gets warm here in Athens, he'll be in great shape come fall and be in a great position to contribute a lot of significant snaps.
Jared Zirkle on to attempt the 36-yard field goal, and he puts it through. So Podlesny has had a successful field goal. Zirkle has now had a successful field goal, and we are all tied up as we continue on between the hedges. Always a great day when you're at Sanford Stadium, taking advantage of a game day. The tailgate earlier today. Tickets are only $5 to come to the spring game, and it all goes to charity. Another good crowd has come out. What was a soggy morning to start this G-Day. Stetson Bennett, the offensive MVP of the College Football Playoff National Championship game. Greg, let's talk about some of his targets this year. We've already mentioned who he has at tight end. Bowers and Washington not in action today. Gilbert and Delta flash. But there is some turnover at receiver. Jermaine Burton transferred to Alabama. A lot of talent still remains.
Yeah, and it really starts at tight end, though. I mean, we've talked about Delp. We've talked, obviously, about Bowers and Washington and what Eric Gilbert might provide as well. But you have to believe that A.D. Mitchell's poised to take a significant step. Kyrus Jackson's great in space. Dominic Blaylock continuing to get healthy. Had, of course, that knee injury a while back, early 2020, but bounced back and should be more of a factor this year as he's another year removed from it. So I think this is the position group, Joe, that has grown the most in the last 3 or 4 years. They were a significant step behind some of the powers that be in college football, but now their offensive weapons, they can challenge that of anybody because of their tight end versatility. So I think this group has come a really long way, and it's a real testament to Coach Monken, the offensive coordinator, and Kirby Smart with their ability to identify talent and make them featured players early in their career.
Jackson Meeks,
because if you
matched up against Dalen Everett, a good-looking true freshman.
If you rewind back 3 or 4 years ago, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, their receivers were off the charts, and Georgia's just weren't there. Now I think that gap is starting to close just a little bit with some of the pieces that Georgia has and some of the young players that will continue to grow and develop.
That's Warren Brinson, who surges into the backfield with the tackle of Edwards. Brinson, one of the guys who's expected to step up. Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, they're all here collecting their championship rings, and Brinson could be a major contributor just to the outside of Jalen Carter this year. I want to get back to that conversation, as I think a great point of analysis on the wide receivers as it's a 3rd down and 12 for Carson Beck. In the face of pressure, downfield, and good competition for the ball is hauled in by Jackson Meeks. So here is the sophomore out of Phoenix City, Alabama, who now gets an opportunity and comes up with a contested catch here. In coverage was Nyland Green.
Yeah, great coverage, too. Just strong hands there from Meeks. You referenced it. I mean, just great concentration, finish, and a good job of reeling it in.
37 yards. Just a yard and a half that time for Clark.
And I'm telling you, this wide receiver core has really grown significantly in recent years. They've had good pieces for sure. Several, Mecole Hardman and Riley Ridley, guys that have gone on to the next level and have had some success. But if you look at the super elite teams, they've had more complementary weapons. Georgia hadn't had that in a while, but I feel like they're starting to get there, and it's very, very exciting.
2nd and 9 for Beck. As he goes underneath, and he's able to connect again with Oscar Delp, true freshman from Cumming, Georgia, who physically is already there. The thing, and this is always so interesting, because when you recruit at the level that Georgia recruits at, physically, so many of the guys are capable of being on the field.
Right.
What always is impressive with a guy like Delp is when mentally you're solid, where mentally the game isn't going too fast for you. You can handle what it is to play at this level.
And are you a willing blocker? At that position,
yes,
in this offense, you have to be multiple. Now, does Brock Bowers make a living blocking stretch zone? No. But he can if you ask him to.
That is Dom Blaylock with the reception. That'll set up a 1st and goal. Blaylock's had a nice spring, had 2 touchdown catches in a scrimmage 2 weeks ago.
It's so good to see him healthy because he was a guy a few years back when we called this game that Kirby Smart was so excited about him coming in. They said he's the guy. I mean, we think he's got a chance to be a true number 1 wide receiver in this offense. Of course, had the unfortunate injury, but now continuing to get a little bit more healthy, and his best football is likely in front of him.
Carson Beck is having a very strong first half here. Daijun Edwards now keeps his footing and takes it in again. He has been in the shadow of what has been an overstocked running back room, and now you can see what his future could be.
Feels like Georgia will play 10 backs if they have to. They're not afraid, as they are definitely a running back by committee group and have been for quite a while. But a nice job. That's twice now that Edwards has gotten around the edge on the right side and found Pater. See that quickness. A good job of getting to the perimeter.
Edwards takes it in after Carson Beck managed another very strong drive. Here's Edwards on the touchdown, but Beck was 3 of 4 passing for 68 yards on that drive. Red up 17-10. With us for the annual G-Day Spring Game. Joe Tessitore, Greg McElroy, Katie George with you from Athens. Karis Jackson on the return, 17-10. Red on top, and Carson Beck, the backup quarterback to Stetson Bennett, 10 of 15 passing, 210 yards in this first half, splitting time. And Greg, he has accounted for all but 20 yards of the offense that the red team has.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, accurate with the football, has got it out on time, has had really nice ball placement as well. Throwing completions is one thing, but is he throwing it to the correct spot of the intended wide receiver? The answer has been a resounding yes. It's been an incredible start for him working against this backup defense.
And now the number 1 offense is back in the game, led by Stetson Bennett, going up against the ones on defense. Jalen Carter in the middle of that defensive line. Here is Bennett as he's going to check down, and it's incomplete. He was looking for Kendall Milton out of the backfield. Coverage came from Dumas Johnson. You know, we spend so much time talking about all the guys up front of the defensive line, but the inside linebackers with the great Nakobe Dean not here. Channing Tindall, Quay Walker no longer here. Lost a lot of talent on the inside.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern. And in this defense, there is so much that is put on that second-level defender. You think about the best Georgia defenses of recent memory, what they always have. A true game changer in the middle of that defense, whether it be Nakobe Dean, Roquan Smith, you name it. So can they adequately replace those pieces? We're going to find out, but they're going to have some youth that are trying to fill some very big shoes.
Bennett was looking for Karis Jackson. It's incomplete. It'll be 3rd and 10. And when we talk to Kirby, now listen, the recruiting has been so sensational. There's always the next man waiting. But that is a position that you just don't go out and find in the transfer portal when it comes to playing this defense and the way you have to communicate this defense.
It's been done before, but extremely rare cases. The best example being just last year, Henry To'o from Tennessee transferring to Alabama. Of course, Alabama runs a very similar style defense to Georgia, basically the same exact thing. But To'o ran that style of defense under Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee. So it can be done, but it's extremely rare.
Brett Seether gets the completion on 3rd down, as that'll move the chains as he's out to the 48-yard line. An 18-yard completion, Bennett to Seether. Final 2.5 minutes of this first half. Stetson tried to go over the middle and find Seether again. Incomplete, but a flag is down at the end of that play. And this will be defensive pass interference. Dan Jackson had coverage on Seether.
Getting back to that second-level defender conversation.
Pass interference.
It's just
defense
so
number 17.
Valuable
Ball will be placed at
to
the
have
spot of
those
the
guys
foul.
in a setting
Automatic
like this.
first down.
In practice, you can coach them up play to play. Hey, they bust it. Oh, re-rack it, no problem. This is real live action. These reps are like gold. And you don't get that many of them. You get 2 real scrimmages in the spring game. You get 2 real scrimmages in the fall, and then it's ready to go. So these are really important reps for that position. So this will be a huge day of evaluation for those inside linebackers.
Bennett on first down after the penalty, and they're going to whistle him down in the backfield. We've got the red team against the black team, but the white jerseys, no contacts. And you'll see those quarterbacks donning those.
Well, that right there, if you guys want to know what the biggest difference is between an offensive-minded head coach and a defensive-minded head coach, was that play right there. Offensive-minded head coach, Stetson Bennett's still running. Defensive-minded head coach, sack. So, that is the difference right there personified on one snap of football. I remember there were times over and over again, give up like 8 sacks in the spring game. It's like, hang on, he barely touched me. Nope, sack. Kirby's over there screaming, yelling, fired up, doing cartwheels. Like, no, that wasn't a sack.
It was Nolan Smith who got on Stetson Bennett. Nolan Smith is primed to have an outstanding year. A few years ago, he was the #1 overall recruit in the country. 2nd and 14 as Bennett goes across the middle and is able to find Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint.
Stetson's got to be thinking 4-down territory here, potentially.
3rd down, able to pick up the pressure. Out of the backfield is Milton. Milton keeps his balance and is into the end zone. Touchdown, Kendall Milton, 32 yards from Stetson Bennett.
How about Milton, too? The guy that has drawn comparisons for years to Todd Gurley, some of those big body backs in the past, has had a difficult time these first couple years staying healthy, but you see the potential and the growth right there. A guy that was not real comfortable coming out of the backfield as a pass catcher. There he reels it in on 3rd down, and you see the finish, just running over defenders and finding the end zone.
Zirkle adds the extra point. And we had a conversation with Todd Monken, who's heading into his 3rd season as the play caller for Georgia, about this guy right here, Kendall Milton. You'll see out of the backfield as Bennett able to find him. And Greg, he said to us, listen, most important thing for Kendall Milton, just stay healthy.
Yeah.
So if this guy stays healthy, it's going to be lights out.
I mean, all the buzz last year, and I always thought James Cook was really underappreciated going into last year. I was like, this dude's just like Dalvin, just feed him, He's really versatile, great out of the backfield as a pass catcher, but all the buzz last summer was about Kendall Milton. And I had a guy that's very knowledgeable about this program tell me he is by far the most talented back on the on the roster. I said, really? Zamir, James Cook, I mean, these are future NFL backs. I said, no, this guy at his best is the best guy they have. So I am just hoping, not just for Georgia's sake, but for college football's sake, we see this young man at his best, because by all accounts, he is the real deal, and you saw a glimpse of that there on that last reception.
6'1", 220. He's got speed, can do that out of the backfield. And now 2-minute drill opportunity for Carson Beck to add to his total today, as he was looking for Blaylock again, and it goes incomplete. And there was a flag down at the end of that play as the coverage came from Jalen Kennedy.
You could see just a little contact, just turned over the wrong shoulder, really. I don't love the call, but it's a good job taking a shot by Beck in one-on-one, as Will Muschamp's probably just as stumped as I am about that pass interference call.
Will Muschamp and Glenn Schumann now the co-defensive coordinators after Dan Lanning had the 3-year run, all the success, the national championship as a defensive coordinator, and is off to take the Oregon job. And dragging across is Delp, and Beck able to connect with him.
I like this kid, man.
Oh, man, there's a lot to like.
Give me some of 4. I like this dude a lot. He is smooth, man. Not quite as lumbering as Bowers, but moves with a real ease for a guy that's that big.
Beck again, really composed in the pocket as he goes underneath the Jackson Meeks. So getting an opportunity for Carson Beck here to cap what's already been an impressive first half with 2-minute drill. The game tied 17 apiece.
These are really important reps too, because so much of the quality at quarterback position comes in 3 different areas. 1, third down, obviously, you got to extend drives. 2, red zone. You can't settle for field goals, you got to score touchdowns. And 3, 2-minute drives. Can you steal points when they're there to be stolen? And right now, Carson Beck doing a good job of understanding that.
Pressure right up the middle as Beck tried to go underneath and connect with Clark. Well, that was Warren Brinson again getting into the offensive backfield.
Brinson's making some noise now.
He is. They've got a good group on that defensive line that is ready to take the step up, and they've got some early enrollees, some true freshmen who were monsters on the recruiting trail and already have the physical gifts that tell you where they'll be headed.
They're going to be fine on defense. Will they be generationally good? I don't know. I hope for them, but they're going to be still top 5, top 10 defense without question to me.
Beck unable to connect with Clark. It'll be third down. Minute 14 remaining in this first half of the spring game.
But it is the tiniest bit concerning to see the second defense working against the red offense get gashed like this. I mean, they've given up a couple big plays, given up contain on a couple of runs. So I'd like to see that group step up just a little bit, because for everything great that's going for the red offense, there's a couple concerns that have been raised here early for the black defense.
Here's an opportunity for the defense on 3rd and 10. That was thrown short and underneath. He was trying to find the true freshman from Stone Mountain, Georgia, Denylon Morissette. Coverage came from Nyland Green.
Really the first bad throw from Carson Beck. I don't know if it just took him a half second to get over there. He was late. I don't know if he was thinking back shoulder. And Morissette, one over the top. That's just a young quarterback and a young wide receiver that clearly weren't on the same page. But either way, Beck could have made him right by throwing it to the back pylon, and it would have easily resulted in 6 points for the red offense.
So it'll be a 49-yard attempt for Jack Podlesny. And it's off to the right. No good there for Pod. Now, the conversation we've been having is in terms of replacing the star defenders from a year ago. And listen, get used to hearing from the University of Georgia come NFL draft time.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Walker with a real chance to be the top player off the board, but not to be outdone. I mean, look at some of these other guys. I mean, Darian Kendrick came in, had a great role last year. Channing Tindall, a guy that was really a backup, saw him at the Senior Bowl, as physically impressive as anybody out there. Lewis Seen did an amazing job. Quay Walker, often overshadowed, but goodness gracious. I mean, those 3 linebackers between Dean, Tindall, and Walker, that's ridiculous. I mean, that is a ridiculous trio. To have Walker and Dean come out, and in comes Channing Tindall, that's just insane depth.
Some movement up front on defensive line. Stetson Bennett has a free play, goes downfield, incomplete, was looking for A.D. Mitchell. Saw that quick shot of Glenn Schumann, the new defensive coordinator, down on the field, who is the guy who has to get things reshaped a bit with the new talent. You saw that list. You bring up Trayvon Walker. I find it interesting in recent days because this has been a fluid NFL draft situation because there isn't a star quarterback.
No.
But then you start to hear the name Trayvon Walker, which I think people are late to the party.
Well,
you and
welcome. Water's warm. Glad
right?
you're here.
You and I would marvel last year when we would come down here to do games, and folks would say to us, guys, we put the GPS tracking system on him. He goes 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
He's 6'5", 280.
He is. It's ridiculous. I mean, and doesn't look it. By the way, Jordan Davis looks like he's 280 too, and he's 340. I mean, you just can't say. I hate to continue to look back because those guys can't help Georgia in 2022. We're about optimism and springing it forward. Yeah, he can, as you see Nolan Smith coming around the edge. But it's hard. It's as good a group as I've seen since I've been in this profession. This is 8 full seasons going on season 9, and I'm just blown away by just how good they were. As you can see, since 1997, last 25 seasons, one of the best we've seen do it. And that's in an era, by the way, in which offenses score a lot of points. So I think right now, based on the offenses they saw, it'd be hard to find a more impressive group.
Good ball that time by Stetson Bennett. On 2nd and 11, flag comes in at the end, but that was a strike to Kearis Jackson. Jackson, the elder statesman of this wide receiver room.
And might get it. It's a really good throw here. It might be, I don't know if it's a targeting. Oh, it is targeting. As you can see, kind of unfortunate there, but yeah. The good news is, if this targeting call is confirmed, he won't have to miss the second half, the first half of the opening game against Oregon.
There's been a lot of talk about that this offseason with those who handle the competition and rules in the sport. David Daniel Sisavon.
You got to keep your head up and see what you hit. But that's a difficult spot because the wide receiver's falling down and you're going in to try to make a collision. But you got to understand where he is and where your contact is initiated. It's going to result in a flag and a possible benching for the rest of the game.
Bennett inside the 10, back shoulder, incomplete, looking for Rosemy Jackson. Coverage came from William Poole. William Poole, who played that nickel corner.
Poole will be interesting because he was kind of thrust into a difficult spot last year. You know, late in the year, all of a sudden he becomes the starter at the star spot. But they like his ability to be able to play outside, too. Are they going to play him at the position he succeeded at so nicely last year, or do they slide him outside? So he's a guy that's had a nice spring and one that his versatility could really help them here in the fall.
2nd and 10 for Stetson. Batted at the line of scrimmage, and then Stetson was smart enough to say, let me bat that again. Nobody's getting after it. That was Bill Norton, who got up and put a hand in the face of Stetson Bennett. And listen, we talk about the physical measurables of Stetson Bennett. The other two guys who have played today, they're more the part, right, of the 6'4" pocket passer. Bennett's 5'10", 5'11", but finds a way.
Yeah, and the quarterback position has evolved. I mean, you no longer have to check the measurable boxes. There are starting quarterbacks in the league that are smaller than Stetson Bennett. But in a perfect world, yeah, you'd love to have that size. The guy makes plays, though, and at one point last year, he had more explosive runs than any other player on this Georgia roster. So acknowledge the great things he does, not focus on the things in which he might come up just a little bit short.
Great things like that. Able to find Marcus Rosemy Jackson on 3rd down and move the chains. Managing the last 20 seconds here of this first half. Quickly to the line and now quickly to the end zone where it's incomplete as he was trying to connect with A.D. Mitchell. 17 seconds remain.
That was a good rep right there. Don't waste hardly any time. You get it up, it's either a touchdown or the clock's going to stop. I love that rep. It's a good heads-up spot. It's no different than spiking the football, except you might actually get a touchdown out of it. So a good job identifying coverage, finding the one-on-one, and giving it an us-or-no-one type of throw.
Enacting the part of a 24-year-old in his 6th season of college football, showing that experience and maturity of managing things and good leadership. And now a 2nd and 10 with 17 seconds remaining here in this first half. Bennett with time to the end zone, and the flag comes in as he was looking for the big target, Eric Gilbert, tight end transfer, who wasn't available for the team last year, but has been showing what he's all about this spring.
Yeah, how about this? Little bunch formation, perfect throw. High and on time. Gilbert just can't get that left hand up, but the reason why he couldn't is because he was getting tugged at by one of these Georgia defenders.
Javon Bullard was locked up with Gilbert.
It's good ball placement there by Stetson, too. Those bunch formations takes a lot to get comfortable with the timing because there's so much trash. Guys are running into each other. The timing is difficult to get a feel for. That time it presented itself nicely, and Stetson threw it on time and on target. More bunch here. I love this formation. Bama ran the heck out of it last year. Good to see Georgia in it. Hopefully they major in it this fall.
Looking Gilbert's way. And that'll leave 8 seconds remaining as Gilbert was matched up one-on-one with Dan Jackson. He was split out to the left side.
I love that right there, though. That right there is the New England Patriots. You put Rob Gronkowski to the left-hand side. If he's in one-on-one, I throw fade. Then to the right side, you have a bunch. And in that bunch, you get to feature Julian Edelman. Or, in that particular case, Ladd McConkey or Kearis Jackson, whoever it ended up being. So if you don't like your one-on-one on the other side, you got a bunch formation, get a little rub, and you're more often than not going to strike up the fight song. I love that formation in this part of the field.
Last 8 seconds. Shallow cross underneath, incomplete. He was trying to get it to McIntosh, but he threw it behind Kenny McIntosh. Stetson Bennett brought this team down the field. He's looking to cap it with a touchdown there.
And this has got to be a walk-in. McIntosh takes his eyes off the football just a little bit. Usually right there, we see that big presence, that Red Sea part. You think that McIntosh is going to kind of sit it down, throttle it down right there. And I think Stetson Bennett probably anticipated that. Instead, McIntosh continued running inward. The ball thrown just behind him. It results in an incompletion. So it might have just been a little bit off the mark. The throw probably not too bad, but I think the route, in a perfect world with that much space, he would have just throttled it down and he would have walked into the end zone.
Timeout is used here with 3 seconds remaining. The guy who had one FBS scholarship offer coming out of high school. It was Middle Tennessee State. A guy who was the scout team quarterback and then transferred to play JUCO ball, and all he did was put his arms around this program, always believe, and just delivered a national championship. Stetson Bennett. And that ball is intercepted, and that is how things will end in this first half as Bullard comes up with the INT in the end zone, 17-17. After one half of our spring game here in Athens. Saw some of the young talent really step up. Heck of a first half from the backup quarterback, Carson Beck. And this crowd just so appreciative of what this team has delivered to them. The rings are out there, Greg. They got their rings, all the shiny gold and diamonds. We'll take a quick break and come back with more as we continue on from Sanford Stadium, the annual G-Day Spring Game, 17 apiece here in Athens. Folks, NFL Draft is coming up, and we, of course, will have every pick on ESPN, also available on the NFL Network. And ABC's coverage will focus on the prospects' journey to the draft. All 3 days are also available on ESPN Deportes, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. NFL Draft begins Thursday, April 28th. And when it comes to those dogs, those mighty dogs who expect to be drafted, it is a long, long list, Greg.
Just how talented this group was. And you look at it, DN, D-tackle, not linebacker. I mean, there's top 7 prospects are all from the defensive side of the football. You have to get all the way down to Jamari Salyer before you get to the offensive side. So this group was James Cook in there as well. So you look across the board. I mean, this group defensively, especially up the middle, was as good as we've seen in a really long time. Trayvon Walker, so incredibly gifted. Glad that scouts are starting to see the potential there. Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis, so incredibly good there at defensive tackle as well. So biggest question mark for me, though, for Georgia moving forward is how the heck do you replace not just Nakobe Dean, but Quay Walker and Channing Tindall, who those three guys manning those two interior linebacker spots. Those are massive shoes to fill because you could see just how capable those guys are.
Trayvon Walker, his name keeps perking up. Who knows how high it goes in the course of the next less than 2 weeks. You know, but you talk about his explosiveness. He was a great high school basketball player. He was at Upson Lee High School in Georgia. They won 71 straight games when he was the high school basketball star there. Speaking of stars, remember last fall when everybody was saying, could it be that a Heisman conversation includes a defensive tackle? How about Jordan Davis in his 40?
It's just scary. I don't know really how else to describe it. I mean, how often does a guy at 341 pounds run 4.840? I think officially he came in at 4.78. I mean, just ridiculous. And really one heck of a human being, too. Just a great kid.
More from the spring game here in Athens when we return. Joe Tessitore and the crew back here in Athens on the annual G-Day spring game. And we want to take the time right now to talk about a great loss and something that has saddened so much of us, of news that came in earlier today. And perhaps more than any sports league, conference, organization, the SEC is one giant family. And those here in Georgia, those throughout the league today, just devastated and heartbroken to hear of the passing of Stevie Campbell, the wife of the Associate Athletic Director and the Sports Information Director at Ole Miss, Kyle Campbell, who's a dear friend of so many of us in this league. Stevie was a wonderful, wonderful, loving, beautiful soul who so many of us had the opportunity to share meals with through the years. And Kyle is a huge part of the storytelling and the leadership in this conference, not just at his university, but as a leader in the sport as well. And on behalf of everybody here at Georgia, everybody throughout the conference, our production crew, our ESPN college football family, we want to send our thoughts and prayers to Kyle Campbell and his family. And may God embrace you at this time, my friend. Between the hedges here in Athens, Georgia, Sanford Stadium, home to the annual G-Day spring game. And for the first time since 1980, broadcast this game. And fans come here with the Dogs as national champions. Stetson Bennett was 8 of 20, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns in that first half. Did throw that interception trying to close out the first half in the end zone. Carson Beck, the backup quarterback, was a big recruit, a redshirt sophomore, had 233 yards passing in that first half. Ladd McConkey on the return to open up this second half. Joe Tessitore, Greg McElroy, Katie George with you here in Athens. Let's go down to the field to Greg.
Joe, down here alongside national championship winning head coach Kirby Smart. The first 30 minutes of football we've seen since your team won the national championship. Coach, what do you think?
Enjoyed it. Good competition, a lot of effort, toughness out there. I like that part. I like the guys competing.
When you see your young quarterbacks, particularly Brock and Carson, what do you want to see from them when operating both 2-minute and regular down and distance offense?
Just that. I want to see them operate the offense efficiently, fix mistakes. I got the wrong signal. I got him lined up, change the protection when we need to against looks. I just want to see them operate the offense. That's the most important thing to me.
You know what I love, Coach? I saw y'all call pressures, blitzes. A lot of times you come see a spring game, y'all see vanilla offense and defense. Not with y'all. Y'all are throwing the kitchen sink at the quarterbacks. What does that do for their preparation?
Well, I think it makes like a real game, right? I mean, anything we've done, they've seen it on tape. They've done it before.
Blaylock double pass. Don Blaylock winds it up downfield, and that ball is intercepted. That was Nyland Green with the pickoff.
They both get a trick play, and I guess that was their trick play. Wasn't pretty.
So right there, is that Blaylock's one opportunity? You get one chance to throw the football, and that was it? That's a miss?
Just like you did at Alabama. That one chance you got in their whole career to throw it. If you don't throw it well, you're done.
Yeah, if that thing hangs in the air.
Here's a look back at the double pass as Blaylock launched that downfield, but it was well short crossfield as he was trying to find Dejon Edwards.
One offense against the one defense. Little formation in the boundary here, Greg, one of your favorites. We didn't have that. Makes the defense declare a little bit.
Stetson Bennett in stride. Here is Jackson as Kearis Jackson with an explosive play.
Yeah, right there. I'm surprised, Coach. I think you'd have a quick whistle normally being a defensive guy, but not there. Letting them play.
Let them play. Throw that ball around, Stetson. That's a really nice ball. Great touch on the ball. 3-deep zone. He hit the over route. Did a good job.
And bouncing back from the interception at the end of the half, too. I mean, the maturity that Stetson Bennett shows, not letting the previous play affect him for the next play. What does that say about his growth as a player?
Well, that happens. Quarterback's got to be able to bounce back anytime from that. We probably would have kicked a field goal in that situation. I wanted to see him play it out and made a nice throw there.
Coach, a lot of new faces along the defensive line, but one that's not new, but maybe in a new role is Jalen Carter. What does he bring to the front of this defense?
Well, he brings some pass rush. Which is the biggest thing we need is pass rush, and he can do that. He can generate it. He can compete. He's had a really good spring. He's starting to lead that group a little bit with those other personalities gone. He's been kind of asserted himself.
When you're trying to find that assertiveness, and you've kind of been a backup or a rotational guy, where do you find your voice as far as the accountability for your teammates?
Well, I think you get it through the off-season workouts, the conditioning program, how you practice. If you're out there being lazy, not putting good stuff on tape, you can't very well be a leader, and I think he does a great job of doing that.
What do you think we got here?
I don't know what we got here. We got a loaded set. Oh, draw or fade. One-on-one outside. Quarterback got the option there. Counting the.
All right, plus territory here, Coach. 3rd and 10. Is it 4-down territory?
It probably is. That's what we're thinking. I'd like to get half of it here before I do it. But
Third down and 10. A.D. Mitchell flanked by Kendall Milton.
I got to make a decision too, right?
Four-man rush. Steps up.
You got a flag and a sack. You might not want to get on the.
Yeah, we'll make sure that Jones.
I didn't give him the sack there. Let's see the replay. What do you think it was a sack, Greg?
Coach, I'm a quarterback. That was never a sack. He's out of there.
Oh, PI. Every quarterback's best friend. Play on that one.
No, we're not going to look at that one twice, Coach. It was definitely PI without question, don't you think? You're an old DB. Do you ever get
debating the PI? Absolutely. A little overly aggressive. Here we go. So we got little quarters. Ooh, crack. Ooh, stay inside the crack.
Man, it's good to see him healthy, Coach Milton. I mean, he is a handful. Looks like Gurley as a body. Like, what can he bring to the team?
Of course. I mean, he's powerful. He gets better as his carries go up. We're not trying to feature the running game in this spring game, but he's a guy that gets better with every carry. He's had a good spring catching the ball out of the backfield, which is a big thing for him. We want him to get better at catching the ball out of the backfield. He's done that.
All right, red zone here. Your offense 2nd and 1. Do you take a shot, or as a defense, do you come after him, try and knock him out of field goal range?
Stop the run here. Got to play to stop the run. If they take a shot, take a shot. It's part of it, right? Show up.
All right, so normal thinking here. Top of the red zone, 20-yard line. What would you call right here if you were in charge of the defense?
Well, double post is a big concept to come here. Figure out whether they're a 4-down team and they're playing for 4 downs, because first down's really a free down if you've got 4. So, this game's a little different. We're playing pass first and not doing a great job here defensively getting off the field. We've had 2 chances and hadn't got off.
Too high for McConkey.
Tell you what, that secondary, that was great pursuit by Chris Smith, Coach, closing that gap in the cover 2.
That's exactly right. He was playing quarters there and had the two guy vertical there. Did a nice job cleaning it up. Get a quick replay of this one. That's a good throw by Stetson. Put it on his body. Great break by Chris.
Really nice break. How about the offensive line? Held up so far, Coach, and done a pretty good job. When they have run it, not much, but there have been some good holes up front for the offensive line.
I think you're always trying to create that identity. Unfortunately, they don't get much of a chance in this one, so it should be good here. We got 1-on-1 outside. Stetson knows it, so let's see where he gets to go with it. Oh, got held out there. Flag, got him. Can't cheat and win, baby. Hey.
Flag is thrown. Bennett's pass was incomplete, intended for Eric Gilbert. Got the flag.
They like that post to Eric Gilbert down here at the top of the red zone. We've seen that now at least 3 times. Once it's resulted in a touchdown, twice it's resulted in pass interference. Coach, that's the 3rd time we've seen that short post by Gilbert. We've seen 2 pass interferences and a touchdown. Clearly Gilbert has answered the challenge that the coaching staff's provided to them. Is that correct?
He's a big matchup guy. Him, Darnell, Brock, those guys are big bodies, and tough to match up with.
Bennett's pass is complete to Rosemary Jackson. Gain is close to the 5.
How about some of the young guys, Coach, that have been thrust into some roles this spring that maybe haven't been here very long? How have they taken to the coaching and the expectation level?
Well, defensively, years, and then another 7 or 8 second-year players. So there's a lot of youth in those 2 classes of defensive guys. Brett Seither's a guy. Lad McConkey's a guy. AD's only 1 year old. He's made some plays. So when you look across the board, there's a lot of youth out there. But this is another game. We're playing a good SEC opponent, I call it, right here. So a chance to get better.
You got to run this ball to the right, don't you?
Oh, I got numbers. Don't hold it. Throw it away.
Good play there, right?
That's right. Play for the next one. You know that. You can't hold it forever.
I like to hold it forever. Just see if I can make something happen. What do you think?
You can do that with that offensive line.
That's right. 8 or no one. That was what we used to say. 8 or no one.
Big play right here. A 7 or you're going to get 3. So
Taff, all-out pressure right here if you're a defensive coordinator?
You could. It depends on what you're good at, right? Where are the match? You gotta be kidding me. Looked like he was throwing it away.
Look what I found.
You get out here with me and they score a touchdown throwing the ball. Right up your alley.
I love it, Coach. Awesome stuff, man. Congrats on all your success. It's been fun to watch your team today.
Thank you, man. Appreciate y'all.
All right, brother.
Kirby Smart's got to like what he's seeing out of Eric Gilbert. Eric Gilbert, who was one of the stars in college football as a freshman at LSU, transferred to Georgia, wasn't available to them a year ago, and now this spring has gotten himself back in great shape and could be a major contributor to what is already a loaded tight end room. They're going to whistle this dead. Great to hear Kirby on that drive and everything he was thinking about as he was watching Stetson Bennett and that offense come down the field. 23-17 our score now. Touchdown by Gilbert. Back with the Dogs, Georgia G-Day spring game. Of course, coming off the national championship win. The 6th different SEC school to win the college football national championship since the BCS debuted back in '98. And now playing quarterback is Gunnar Stockton. And Gunnar Stockton will hand off to Cash Jones. But Gunnar Stockton is a young man who was the number 4 dual threat quarterback in the country, according to ESPN.com. He went to the quarterfinals of Georgia high school ball last year, passed for over 4,000 yards, 55 touchdowns. In his career in high school, passed for over 13,600 yards as he finds Jones out of the backfield. So halfway through this third quarter, in comes Gunnar Stockton. I keep mentioning all these Georgia defensive players who have moved on to be top NFL draft prospects, and Katie is standing by with one of the very best to play here.
He won't be left alone on the sidelines. There's kids everywhere saying, Nakobe, 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 wanting autographs and pictures. Nakobe Dean certainly doesn't need an introduction. You don't have the ring on like your former teammates. You've kept it in the box. Why?
The box. It's just, you know, I don't want to wear it out because I'm gonna wear it tonight when I go out to eat with my family and everything. So I'm gonna keep it in the box right now. I can't wait till the other two come in. But you know, it's just great having this. Oh my goodness.
It's pretty.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have a say in designing it?
I did. We got we was able to get our signatures on the inside, and we was able to get the score and our numbers and everything on it. So it's let me show y'all one more time. I gotta see one more time.
Now, you haven't left Athens. You're still training, getting ready for the draft at the end of April. What's it like being back in Sanford Stadium with all the fans around?
It's great being back in Stanford. Just seeing it from a different perspective, being on the sideline, you know, not be a little looser just because I'm not actually out there playing, having to focus in. So it's just great being able to see it, you know, see all the fans again and seeing Stanford packed again.
You were so productive and such a big part of a prolific defense last season. You're certainly going to be missed. The guys up front are certainly going to be missed. But I just don't think people understand how much your voice meant to your teammates around you. You were the quarterback of that defense. Who's the next guy that's going to try to fill the shoes of Nakobe Dean?
We got a lot of guys on that defense that's stepping up, and they've been playing lights out this spring. They keep on getting better. I don't want to say no names. I don't want to put no pressure on nobody, but they know who they are. They know the other linebackers who in there working. And I feel like I got complete trust in all of them as far as the work they've been putting in and how better they've been getting.
You'll be wearing a different uniform here soon. What will you miss most about your time here at Georgia?
The people, you know, me and everybody, all the relationships I was able to make here. You know, of course I won a national championship, but the people, all the relationships I was able to make here from athletic and academic standpoint.
All right, you're going to Vegas at the end of April to hear your name called. Do you have the outfit figured out yet?
It's in fruition. You know, my mother kind of sent me some ideas, so we kind of trying to put it together right now. I know I'm last minute, but yeah, it's almost done. It's almost done.
Bold color, pattern. What are we thinking? Can you give us a little idea?
To be determined.
To be determined. All right, well, we can't wait to see what you show up in, and we can't wait to see where you get drafted. Congratulations on all your success. Best of luck.
Thank you.
I like the fact that he says, no, I'm not going to wear my championship ring. It's in the box. I'm going to wear it out to dinner tonight. May I suggest you go to Chuck's Fish and get the Go Dogs sushi roll, the yellowtail and spicy tuna, and order that with all the bling out in downtown Athens. There's Carson Beck back into the game. It was a great visit you had with Kirby Smart.
I just really appreciate how similar. I mean, I've known Kirby for 15 years. You know, I've known him a long time. He's the same guy today as he's always been. In success and in failure, he's consistent. And he's just a fierce competitor. Even though, look, every time the offense scores, he's happy. That's great. But that's his defense they scored on.
That's right.
So in his blood, he's naturally going to see it through the eyes of a defensive mind. So it's just always cool to see how consistent he's been and see the success that he's had. I'm just so happy for him and for all the people associated with this program.
Beck with time, and he gets it complete as he goes to Kearis Jackson.
Tess, I'm actually offended that you didn't mention the homemade blondie brownie that they serve at Chuck's.
Are we done ordering it? I think we ordered 2 or 3 for the table last night.
It's incredible, incredible.
Nakobe Dean, the Butkus Award winner, he's got a lot to celebrate out in town tonight. It's got to be amazing for these guys to come back after everything they accomplish and have a weekend like this.
It's kind of weird, though. I remember going back first couple times, and it's just weird because it feels like for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, however long you were on campus, you always had somewhere that you had to be. And for the first time ever, when you've been on campus, there are no responsibilities right in front of you. And it's odd. It's kind of disturbing in some ways because you're constantly watching the clock. You're just so ingrained in the day-to-day process of trying to become successful. So these guys earned it. They deserve it. They should celebrate it. And I can promise you, as someone that's gone through it, it will get better with time. It's great now. They're going to celebrate it now. They're going to be proud of what they accomplished now, but they will be more proud 10 years from now for what they accomplished last year.
Greg, you also went through what Stetson Bennett now has to go through, and that's coming back to play a season of college football after winning a national championship.
And Stetson is never going to be a guy that gets complacent. That's just not how he's built. Want to know why? Because no one's ever given him a compliment. I mean, the guy is constantly still trying to prove himself. He still has a chip on his shoulder, feeling as though, man, what more can I do to be accepted? And I love him. I think he's a great story. And on a team full of superstars, it's cool to know that their quarterback comes from humble beginnings and had to earn it. Nothing was given to Stetson. Everything's been earned, and he's taken advantage of every opportunity he's been afforded. And he's the first national championship winner here in 4 decades. And there's been some really talented quarterbacks that have worn this uniform in the last 41 years, and the first one to bring one home was Stetson Bennett.
End of 3 here in Athens. Hey, let's tell you what we got in store for UFC Fight Night. They're going to be at the Apex in Vegas, welterweight main event. Prelims get going on ESPN Plus at 5:30 Eastern. Main cards on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern. Of course, it's also available on ESPN Plus. You can go to ESPNplus.com. 23-17. Black on top of the red. Stetson Bennett has 197 yards, 3 touchdowns, the interception at the end of the half. Carson Beck has been a story, 246 yards passing for Carson Beck. 15 different receivers have caught passes today, and that really speaks to what today is all about because it's a day of opportunity.
Yeah. And talking to Kirby Smart, he said, look, we wanted to feature the passing game. Understandable, right? That's where you want to grow. That's where you know you can run the football. You know you're likely going to be able to run the football. And as that offensive line continues to gel and create continuity in the next 4 months, that's not a position group I'm too concerned about. But I want to see the chemistry between quarterback and wide receiver, and we've seen a lot of it today.
Vandegrift is able to connect with Dejon Edwards. Brock Vandegrift, who was the local big-time recruit, star in the waiting. He was an early enrollee a year ago, did see some limited action in last year's G-Day game. Kirby Smart has talked about how much growth there has been with both Beck and Vandegrift.
And how much growth is still to come, right? I mean, we can talk about where Beck is and where Vandegrift is and where Gunnar Stockton is, but these guys are really still extremely young. And this is not an easy offense to digest and run efficiently. This offense demands a lot of the quarterback position from a decision-making standpoint, from an adjustment standpoint, from a footwork standpoint. So it's understandable that maybe there's some growing pains early, but when the light goes on, you see that trajectory and that potential. So a lot of opportunity still to grow for both Beck and Vandegrift throughout not just the rest of this spring game, but also throughout summer and fall camp.
Edwards on 3rd and 2. And Edwards is right near that line to gain. Williams with the tackle. Edwards, the number 3 running back behind Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh. And as Todd Monken told us, so he's just playing faster right now. You can see the growth with him, eliminating the mental mistakes. That's what you hear a lot of when you ask where a player is in their development in the spring, of knowing they're going to the next level. This is Blaylock, who could be a major contributor back from the knee injuries.
You reference, those young players. Coaches always say, he plays like a freshman. What does that mean? Well, it means you have flashes, both good and bad. And as you start to evaluate who you'll eventually become, those bad flashes become fewer and farther between while the good flashes remain. So that's the biggest thing for young players that are taking the jump, is that you can't have the catastrophic mistakes. You can have one or two, it happens, but they can't happen as regularly as the great plays that you'll make. Because of how talented all these guys are, they're going to make some amazing plays. They just can't have the big mistakes, and that's just all part of maturing as a player.
It's interesting, too, because so many times what ends up being lauded is just the simple things, just doing the basic things correct. Alignment and assignment.
Right.
The most basic things are what a coach wants to see, that we never have to think about you when it comes to alignment and assignment.
The best ability is availability. The second best ability is predictability.
Vandegrift.
Knowing what to expect from the player when they go on the field. All right, I know when I tell that guy to run a 6-yard hitch, he's going to run a 6-yard hitch. When I tell that offensive tackle to take one good step to the right-hand side and secure the edge, he's going to do that. You have to be dependable and predictable. And I think that's all part of just growing and learning the offense and making it become second nature as you continue to get comfortable.
Second and 10. Brock Vandegrift, crossing route complete to Blaylock. Right at that line to gain, and that will move the chains.
You see Vandegrift getting a little more comfortable now. And remember, a lot of people there in the first half saying, oh my goodness, Vandegrift's way behind Carson Beck. Well, Carson Beck was working against the second-team defense. Vandegrift was having to go against the first-team defense with guys that have played a lot of football. So getting a little more comfortable here in the second half working against the twos.
Savon Clark, good leg drive to finish off that run. He goes for 8 strong yards on first down. Tackled by Dalen Everett. Dalen Everett, good-looking true freshman out of Norfolk, Virginia. Then he went south to IMG. Remember, Zamir White, James Cook off to the NFL. But in McIntosh and Milton, and even some of the moments we see out of Edwards, they are in good hands.
I'm not concerned about running back at all. This is Georgia. I will never be concerned about running back when talking about the Georgia Bulldogs.
As Edwards takes the carry, and another tackle from Warren Brinson. Brinson has had a very active day.
This might be an opportunity to see what the running backs can do here on 3rd and short. Can Edwards surge forward behind an offensive line for a first down?
And Edwards does indeed. Georgia offense that returns 73% of its offensive production from last season. Of course, they also return star tight end, who we have not seen, as Brock Bowers is recovering from injury. And yet we've seen excellent tight end play here in this spring game with Gilbert and Delp. They go 4 or 5 deep at tight end.
Right now, that's the position du jour when it comes to creating matchups. I mean, if you can have guys that can put pressure on the defense with matchups, you got a lot of things to be excited about. And with their depth and versatility at tight end, they have a chance to be as good as anybody at that position in college football, and maybe as good as anybody we've seen in a while in college football at that position.
I would agree with that. I mean, Bowers alone is such a difficult matchup. Darnell Washington is huge. 6'7", 265. And then Gilbert was generationally the biggest tight end recruit we've seen when he came to LSU to start his college career. 2nd and 2, down to the 1-yard line as he goes to Blaylock. So now, to your point, Brock Vandagriff gaining confidence.
Yeah, really nice throw here on the move. Perfectly thrown on the body, and a great job there by Blaylock, getting that right foot down for the completion. It's great to see Blaylock getting close to 100% again, and hopefully he'll reach that potential here in 2022.
Savon Clark, he is taken down, tackled for a loss. That was Nazir Stackhouse. And Nazir Stackhouse, he's a guy we focused in on when you visited with Kirby yesterday, Greg, and he said, listen, he's one of the guys who had the furthest to go in developing, but has gone the furthest in developing this spring.
Yeah, and much like the conversation we had about the quarterbacks, still a relatively young guy. I know it sounds crazy, but you see junior next to his name. Yeah, but he had a COVID year, so that stunted the growth of a lot of the young players. So now you look at what he's now becoming. The light's starting to go on, and the opportunity will be there for him in the fall.
And the other thing is, anytime you have any of these conversations about the defensive linemen and you say, oh boy, this guy hasn't hit the field yet. Okay, Trayvon Walker was on the field. Jordan Davis was on the field. Devontae Wyatt was on the field.
Right. And there have been a lot of guys. For every guy that bursts onto the scene and has a game-changing, super elite, true freshman year as a defensive front player, a la Will Anderson at Alabama, there's 3 or 4 guys that it takes a few years for them to get comfortable. Trayvon Walker's a great example. Took a couple years and then, boom, became one of the best players at his position and potentially one of the top picks in the NFL draft.
At 1st and goal at the 1 after the completion of Blaylock, and now 3rd and goal, and that is incomplete as he was trying to connect with Edwards out of the backfield.
I don't know if that got tipped or what, but it's like Vandagriff just tried to get that ball out way too quick. He threw it before his receiver was even looking at him, and because he rushed it, he was off the mark, setting up a 4th and goal.
16th play of this drive, and it comes on 4th and goal. Vandagriff backing up and unable to haul it in. That was Jackson Meeks who was the intended target. So it'll be a turnover on downs inside the 10-yard line. Take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the schedule and how Greg thinks things could shape up for the Dogs. So the national champs will look to get back with this schedule, and it opens up September 3rd against their recent defensive coordinator, Dan Lanning, now the head coach at Oregon. That is the Chick-fil-A kickoff game in Atlanta. You really look through that schedule, Greg, and you examine things, and you understand where some of the classic rivals are as a program, the situation that's going on at Auburn, the new coaching staff at Florida. And obviously, you're dealing with the national champions. You're dealing with a loaded, ultra-talented roster. But that is a manageable slate.
It is. And the East, for the most part, relatively manageable. I think there's 3 potential slip-ups. Got to be careful. At South Carolina, early in the season, Spencer Rattler at South Carolina. Obviously, that roster, that nucleus of talent for Shane Beamer and his staff, not what it needs to be, likely to knock off at Georgia. But if Georgia's still trying to find themselves there in week number 3, it's a tricky place to go play, and one that rivalry has been odd in years past. And then you look back at the slate in November, very difficult. At Mississippi State, always a tough place to go play. It'll be ringing loud. Mississippi State might be their last surge at that point to try to get to bowl eligibility. So I think Mississippi State could have some ups and downs this year. Then at Kentucky. Kentucky, however, even though I think you can make a strong argument they're the 2nd best team in the SEC East, I don't think they're the type that's really built to take advantage of what Georgia has at times struggled with. Kentucky's not going to air it out and throw it all over the yard and use tempo. They're going to try to grind you out and run the ball down your throat. So I don't love the matchup for Kentucky. It's still a difficult game for Georgia to go up there where it's likely going to be freezing in mid-November and to play in what should be a very hostile environment.
And just to get back to that Oregon game for a moment, that's the first matchup between Georgia and Oregon since 1977. Chick-fil-A kickoff game, Oregon's first appearance in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. But to your point as to the way the season ends in November, at Mississippi State, at Kentucky to finish out SEC play, of course the rivalry against Georgia Tech at the end of the year on November 26th. But the first time that Georgia will finish SEC play with back-to-back road games since 2008. Always a little tricky with back-to-back road games deeper into the season. A short break, and then we will come back to Athens. A lot of takeaways from today's spring game here at Georgia, but one of the big ones is the return of Arik Gilbert.
And he's been terrific. In the red zone, they've featured him multiple times. He has 2 touchdowns, but he's also drawn 2 pass interference penalties inside the 20. He's been really effective in the passing game, so I'm very optimistic about what contributions he might make here in the fall alongside really capable tight ends as well in Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington.
Vandagriff goes for 28 yards there. We've seen Stetson Bennett, we've seen Carson Beck at quarterback, Brock Vandagriff getting extended time, even a flash of Gunnar Stockton, the early enrollee. Vandagriff looks to close things out. And also interesting with Gilbert is we've mentioned that Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington not in action dealing with injuries. They'll be back this summer. 3 minutes to play here. First down for Vandagriff. But what an opportunity by not having those guys around, just the pure number of reps that he's been able to get.
Oh, 1 million reps. And to get him back comfortable running, like Katie referenced earlier, he's got to drop some weight, still not quite where he needs to be physically, but another 3 or 4 months, if he can get back to who he was coming out of high school, there's no telling what this tight end room might look like and how many problems they could potentially be for opposing defenses in the SEC.
Moments ago, you just saw Oscar Delp, the true freshman tight end. He's been very good today as well.
Not to be outdone.
No.
He's going to be a factor, I would imagine, as well, assuming he's willing and capable to put his hand in the dirt and block at the end of the line of scrimmage.
Right now, he's 225 pounds on that 6'5" frame, but you stick around in the strength and conditioning program of an SEC school, and all of a sudden, 225 becomes 250 in a matter of months.
Weeks in some cases. Yep. I think there'll be a lot of buzz coming out of this about Carson Beck and how he has shown enough. I haven't seen enough from him. I mean, he did great in the first half of the G-Day game against the second-string offense. I don't think the gap's closed between him and Stetson Bennett for me, but the one massive takeaway that I have is that I thought it was a 2-horse race potentially in the tight end room, and now is a 3-horse race with the emergence of Arik Gilbert.
Think about some of the great position rooms in college football. There have been loaded position rooms in college football through the years. You think of Alabama with the running back room they've had through the years, but this Georgia tight end room, as it stands right now, it is loaded. It is overflowing with talent. Third and goal for Vandagriff. He's trying to find Jackson Meeks in the corner of the end zone.
The one question I have is, how can you possibly justify, if Arik Gilbert continues with his progress, how can you justify being in any personnel grouping that doesn't have 3 tight ends on the field? I mean, it's almost like
as some
unthinkable.
around the program would say, if you put 3 tight ends on the field, you may be putting a lot of wide receivers into the transfer
right. And that's understandable in today's day and age. I get that. But if you're really trying to create stress on the opposing defense, tight ends are a nightmare, and you have 3 that could potentially be major matchup issues.
32-yard field goal by Podlesny. You know, that is the reality of the college football we're dealing with right now, though. Guys looking for starts, guys looking for reps, guys wanting to know how many catches I'm going to get, how many times the ball is coming my way. And even though you look at this roster, listen, if you're managing the roster and you got Bowers and Washington and Gilbert, why not?
Yeah, right. I mean, if I were Todd Monken and I were calling the plays and I were putting together the plan, I would live in 3 tight end personnel. 13 personnel, 23 personnel, you name it, I would live in it. I'll tell you what, with the emergence of Delp today, I wouldn't be afraid of 14 personnel. With 4 tight ends on the field, 0 wide receivers, and 1 running back.
And right now, A.D. Mitchell and Dom Blaylock and Kearis Jackson and Ladd McConkey and Rosamie Jackson are saying, can somebody please mute Greg McElroy right now? Can somebody just bring down his mic? There's a fumble at the end of that play. Kenny McIntosh. There's a couple minutes to play here in the spring game. There'll be a lot of people buzzing about Carson Beck. We had 10 passes of 20 or more yards today. 10 passes of 20 or more yards. And Kirby made the comment he feels they're going to be a more explosive offense this year.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, the emergence of the wide receivers, like you just referenced. I know we've raved about the tight ends, understandably too. The tight ends are really special, and it's what makes Georgia different. Everyone's got great wideouts. Not that many people have great tight ends. Georgia has great tight ends. But I also think their wideouts are very capable. We saw what Ladd McConkey did last year. The Auburn game stands out as one where he did a lot of really amazing things. Kearis Jackson is a handful. Just get him the ball, get him some space, and see what he does with it. It's kind of cut from the same cloth as a Mecole Hardman. You have A.D. Mitchell, who's really smooth, can win over the top. Great route runner, great feel for the position. I think they have really nice complementary pieces at their wide receiver spots.
Stetson Bennett with time and bouncing around before finally it is picked off. Yes, that was Marshall who was able to secure it.
Let's take a look at the location of the throw. It's just thrown too far to the left. So he's trying to find it. The intended wide receiver, the receiver's left, I guess. The quarterback's right. Trying to throw it away from the defender, and the ball drifted just a little bit towards the defender. It gets batted up over the middle of the field, and more often than not, that's going to result in an interception. So a difficult one there for Stetson Bennett, just off the mark on one of those throws over the middle of the field, and he's been pretty dialed in on those throughout the course of the game.
Vandegrift comes back in.
False start, offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
A lot of people will probably continue to bang the drum. I don't think it'll be a majority. I think it'll be a very vocal minority about whether or not Stetson Bennett's the best option at quarterback, and they're going to cite these 2 interceptions today as reason why he needs to be replaced.
Well,
and
let's eliminate the first conversation and the one at the end of the first half, shall we?
Right, that one's a throw it up for grabs at the end of half. Kirby even said it himself that they would likely have been kicking a field goal in that situation, so take it with a grain of salt. That throw off the mark, an accurate throw, one that you just can't make. But those that will start the narrative of Carson Beck should be the starting quarterback. I, for one, as someone that's going to evaluate the bigger picture, I'm going to put a little bit more stock into the second half of the national championship game than I am in the first half of the G-Day game against the backup defense. I'm just saying, just a little bit more stock in the national championship game. I think until proven otherwise, Stetson Bennett is this team's quarterback, and Carson Beck will continue to improve, and when he gets his chance, I think he'll be fantastic. But Stetson's still my guy if I'm Kirby Smart or if I'm wearing red and black on a Saturday-by-Saturday basis.
Vandegrift has done this now 2 times where he is free to get those wheels going as he runs for a first down. But, you know, let me say this about that conversation because I laugh because it's so true. This is what I love about our league, though, is the passion, the scrutiny, the intensity, and how much the fans watch every little thing. That the 2 of us know as we step into this booth today, that anything that Carson Beck does is going to be reacted to that way. When here you have the guy who is the offensive MVP of the Orange Bowl, the guy who goes slays Alabama as the offensive MVP of the national title game, the guy who with the game on the line throws two fourth quarter touchdowns to win the national championship. And yet you knew when we stepped in the booth today, Carson Beck would do something that would possibly create that reaction.
Right, of course, but if your coach is going to harp, so what's next, right? So what's next is like the mantra of the most successful programs in college football. It's like, hey man, great, we won, awesome. So what's next? That's what Ohio State says, that's what Georgia says, that's what Alabama says, that's what Clemson has. So what's next? I think the fans have adopted that mindset as well, and I'm not mad at them for it. Their passion and their intensity is what makes this league amazing and why it's the best, I think, in college football.
Well, everything means everything. Incomplete as he was trying to connect with Arian Smith. Arian Smith, who's been an All-America in track here at the University of Georgia, who opened up this game on the receiving end of a 60-yard completion as Carson Beck's first pass of the game.
Either way, though, I think you could say now, though, Tess, is with Vandergriff and the Stockton's development, Carson Beck's emergence, and what Stetson Bennett did last year, quarterback is not a concern for Georgia. Like it used to be, well, can we win the national championship without superstar quarterback? The answer is yes.
Yeah, you just did it.
Without question, you just did it. But your quarterback depth, still very good. And JT Daniels' departure to West Virginia did not leave an empty cupboard. They have plenty of good pieces still that would back up Stetson Bennett in the event of an injury or in the event of his absence. They have capable guys that have grown an awful lot in the last 12 months that can now step in and play winning football for Kirby Smart in this offense.
Listen, you mentioned the quarterback depth. It doesn't happen without elite recruiting, and you think about what Kirby Smart has been able to do in recruiting. We talk about at the beginning of the show, is this program built to sustain? Folks, look at the last 5 years of recruiting. They're not going away at all. That was not just a blip on the radar like we've seen with some other programs that cycle up. This is a loaded roster of 4 stars and 5 stars.
No question. But talent's just half the equation, right? You also have to have leadership, and you have to have culture. And Kirby Smart has developed a culture of intensity. He's developed a culture of competition. Those two things together, it allows for guys to be developed to the fullest extent. And the result is hearing a lot of guys names called in the NFL draft. So I think this is going to continue. I think you could even make a strong argument that now that they've broken through, it could actually get better. So I'm very excited about what's to come for this program, and it's an exciting time to be associated with the Georgia program.
Jalen Carter, one of those big recruits in recent years, just batting down that pass attempt. But we mentioned it, the last 4 recruiting classes, the most ESPN 300 signings. Alabama has 83, Georgia 63. Those are the top 2 teams in the country. Yes, coaching, yes, culture, undoubtedly player development. But when you're developing diamonds to begin with, that's a good start.
Yes. When you have guys that are there that have tools, you're in good shape.
I don't think it's much of an accident that when you see those teams, you often see the same teams repeating themselves, with the exception of the troubles that Texas has had in recent years. And Texas A&M is a team that is very much expected in the coming years to be competing for national championships based on their recruiting. Doesn't happen by accident.
Recruiting's just half the puzzle, though.
No doubt.
I mean, people say, well, look at the recruiting classes. Look at Texas, a good example. How about Tennessee 5 or 6 years ago? Butch Jones put, back-to-back-to-back great recruiting classes for Tennessee, but the development wasn't there. So it's, yes, you have to have the pieces, you have to have the ceiling, you have to have the upside, but you also have to have the identity to be able to get the most out of each and every player. And that's been established here in Athens.
Well, the guy with the ball right now was only recruited by one FBS school. But he's been making plays like that. And here's Eric Gilbert again. I told you earlier today, you know, listen, you've heard his name pronounced Arik. You've heard his name pronounced Eric. Here's the bottom line. Somebody walked up to him yesterday, son, what does your mom call you? Eric. All right, Eric.
Perfect. What mama wants, mama gets. That's for sure.
That's right. And Eric Gilbert has been sensational today to the end zone looking for A.D. Mitchell. Last 16 seconds here.
Well, I don't know what they do in the event of a tie on G-Day, because more often than not, winners get steaks, losers get beans and weenies, right? That's what's on the line here for Georgia. If it's consistent with years past, so that means you have to have a winner. You do coin toss. What do you do?
Everybody gets steak. How about that?
No, can't afford it.
Can't do it. That's the one thing I assure you they can. Last 16 seconds. Stetson Bennett batted again at the line of scrimmage, and again it was Bill Norton. Second time he has done that. Zion Logue also involved there.
I remember those plays. They used to frustrate me so bad when you know it's a pass, it's obvious it's a pass, and the guys don't rush the pass, they just hang back and try to knock it down. In a real game, the offensive lineman would choke slam the defensive lineman if you go vertical like that, but you're not going to do that to your own teammates, and not the most realistic rep right there.
Under 10 seconds, and that is complete on the outrun by Jackson. That was a good ball by Stetson Bennett.
Beautiful throw here on the back shoulder, slot fade, and a great adjustment too. And not the way that Kearis Jackson would normally adjust to the football, because he actually turned away from it. Usually you turn back to it, never take your eyes off of it. But Kearis Jackson turned over his left shoulder, still was able to reel it in. Tremendous concentration and great accurate throw there by Stetson Bennett with the game on the line.
And now Jared Zirkel will come in for the field goal with 6 seconds remaining. Try to give the black team the win. 27-yard attempt for Zirkel, redshirt sophomore from Texas. And he is able to put it through. So a great job by Stetson Bennett at the end to put them in position. And it looks like they're going to walk it off. Zeros on the board. Stetson Bennett finishes with 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Carson Beck, 246 yards passing, and a big day out of the tight end, Eric Gilbert. The champs are back. They'll open up against Oregon on September 3rd. For Katie and Greg and the crew, I'm Joe Tessitore. Thanks for being with us here in Athens.